All right, good afternoon. My name is Jesse. I'll be your host for the Cannabis Guys podcast this episode. And in the studio, we got Mike and Mike. So this is going to be the first one of many from the Cannabis Guys podcast. But today, and for this special edition, we are going to be talking about exclusively a very cool seminar coming up and why you need to attend. So with that, I'm going to bring to the show Mike and Mike. Good afternoon, guys. Happy Sunday.
Good afternoon. Happy
Sunday.
Sunday.
How you doing, Jesse?
Man, things are incredible, and I'm so excited for what we're going to be sharing with our audience here today. We have a lot of things to go through, so without any delay, let's get to know you guys and why you do what you do and how you got into it. So, Mike Patterson, why don't you start us off?
I'll start off. So thanks for watching, guys. And today we're talking specifically about the Georgia Medical Cannabis Licensing Business and Employment Seminar. It's going to be June 22nd and June 23rd in Atlanta, Georgia. June 22nd is a Saturday. It's going to be at the Atlanta Airport Marriott. And then Sunday is going to be at Atlanta Buckhead Marriott. So just to give you an idea if you're listening. So we're coming to Atlanta. If you can tell, I'm from the South, originally from North Carolina. Went to East Carolina University. If anybody's from the South. So we're excited. My partner over
Pirates.
here. That's right, Mike. So my partner over here, Mike is from the North, from Baltimore area. And so he's not a Southerner. It's okay. We can have him. He's nice. He's one of the good ones. So just a little bit about my background. I'm a licensed occupational therapist. I used to run a nursing home chain called Avante Group from New Jersey all the way through to Florida. So also a nursing home administrator. We did about $220 million a year in total revenues. So healthcare background, and also I've worked for a private merchant bank. I've run pharmacies as well as laboratories as home health companies. So one of the things we find, Jesse, getting to this industry is everybody comes from a different area. And so it's exciting because you can use those skills when you come into this profession, no matter where you come from. Mm-hmm. So those core skills that you bring to this new profession of cannabis really, really helps out. So my role is in our company, US Cannabis Pharmaceutical Research and Development. My role is more of the operations. And my partner over here, Mike, he's more about growing a great product. So
I see.
I'll let Mike talk about the more fun stuff, what he does.
Very cool. Mike, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you for having me. Thanks for watching, everybody, on a Sunday. I'm Michael Visher. We're bringing this seminar to Atlanta because we have been educating the country, Hawaii, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, Florida, Washington State. We've been around, and we've brought the baseline of knowledge of the cannabis industry to the general population. And that's really what this seminar is about, particularly for Georgia, is to be able to come in and give people understanding, because not everyone, but a lot of people really love cannabis and they want to be involved somehow, but they don't necessarily know where they can find their niche. And when they come and hear us talk, they get an idea of how they can take what they know and what they do and bring it into the cannabis industry. And then, unfortunately, for some people, it's also a kind of a wake-up call or realization that as much as they want to be part of the cannabis industry, it's not always for everybody. So we do burst some bubbles over that weekend.
It's not that bad, Mike.
It's not that bad. I'm just saying, people have to realize this is a complicated industry. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot of hoops to jump through. There's a lot of things. It tends to be a lot more complicated. People think, oh, I'm just going to grow weed.
Right.
But it's really a lot more complicated than that. And a lot like I like using the brewing beer example.
Sure.
We can go brew beer, but not a lot of people are brewing beer in their garages simply because it's time consuming and difficult, and you can get a great product from somebody who knows how to make it at the store. And so medical cannabis has really gone that same route, where you have professionals who are out there making an amazing product to help benefit people, particularly on the medical side. And Georgia's got an interesting position because they're doing low THC in only liquid form, so oils, capsules, tinctures, things like that. So it's going to be processed. There's limited number of entry into the industry, and we hope to educate some people on the different aspects of that.
So let's rewind. You how'd you get into this field then, and what's your background?
So I am an entrepreneur by trade.
Okay.
I've started and opened and run medical offices since I graduated college. My degree is in physical therapy. And when I decided, and I opened my first office in Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
And then my wife didn't really like living in Colorado, so we moved down to Florida. And then someone was taking the MCAT exams, and they called me, and they go, "Hey, Mike, do you know what's happening here in Colorado?"
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, "What?" And they're like, "Dude, there's stores that sell like medical marijuana here."
Yeah.
I was like, "What do you mean, dude?" And like, there's stores. They advertise in the newspaper. Like, get out of here. They advertise in the newspaper. And I called some old contacts of mine in Colorado from the medical industry days, and they were like, "Yeah, this is legit." And so I found somebody who, I didn't know anything about marijuana, growing marijuana, selling it, anything like that. And I found someone down in the Springs who kind of gave me a crash course on all the different aspects of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then we decided to go to Denver, and we opened a dispensary. So I, along with my sister, we opened up a Tender Healing Care medical marijuana dispensary down on Santa Fe in Denver, right across the street from the King Soopers.
Go Broncos.
And
That was 2009, wasn't it?
that was 2009.
Yeah, that's so. This is when Colorado just became medical, not
well, you got to
recreational.
understand, people. We'll get too much into it, but
Right.
medical marijuana in Colorado started in 2001,
Mm-hmm.
and from 2001 2005 it was a little more restricted, and then some laws changed in 2005, and all of a sudden the industry opened up. And so from 2005 to about 2009, the industry was slowly growing, but it was relatively underground. But people were starting to open stores, and people were helping the general public. But it wasn't until the Ogden memo actually issued in October of 2009 that the green rush really began. And that was when people started coming into Colorado. And that was when it started making noise because, the Attorney General's office came out and said, don't prosecute medical marijuana states. And that's not even really what it said, but that was the gist that people got out of it. And they started running to Colorado to open a marijuana dispensary. And so Denver quickly came out and said, if you don't have a sales tax license dated before this date, then you can't have a medical marijuana dispensary. And the thing in Denver, which is an interesting little tidbit of how this industry unfolds, was if you went to Denver City to purchase a sales tax license to sell medical marijuana, they told you that they didn't take tax on medical marijuana, so they had no reason to give you a sales tax license. So a lot of operators in 2008, 2009, they went down, tried to get a sales tax license. You don't have to pay tax. You don't need a sales tax license. So they said, great. And they went and they opened up their store, spent hundreds of thousands of dollars. They were selling medical marijuana, out of a store. And then along came the Ogden memo, and the city of Denver said, if you don't have a sales tax license by whatever the date was, I don't remember it now, you can't be in operation. And then they stopped issuing new sales tax licenses.
So you have to be grandfathered in.
So you have to be grandfathered in. And so when we went to go get our sales tax license, they were like, you don't need one. And we're like, no, you don't understand. I'm not. And this was before all this came out. But I said, if we don't get a sales tax license, you pay taxes, the government won't shut you down. That's always been my policy. So I was like, we're going to get a sales tax license. We're going to pay taxes, because then if we're paying taxes, they won't close us down.
So, Mike, let me ask you this. So, in Georgia, with the stores, how's it going to work compared to what you just told us in Colorado?
It's not going to be anything like that. I mean, that was the wild, wild west. That was the pioneer days. It was cowboys and Indians. It was Columbus discovering America. It's not going to happen again, because now Georgia has a strict set of rules. And so if you want to be a dispensary owner, it lays out in the law what the law is going to require for you to be a dispensary owner. And currently there aren't any there aren't any limitations on the number of dispensary owners Georgia is going to take, but there is a limitation in the qualifications that you're going to have to meet to be able to be a dispensary owner. And very similar, Denver, when it did those rules in 2009, it started creating a baseline of requirement to get in the industry.
Very curious. So, because we're really trying to highlight the seminar going on in Atlanta coming up in June. What is a perfect candidate? if somebody is looking forward to seeing what you guys have to share, what does that kind of look like? How should they prepare and preparation for the seminar?
That's an excellent way to ask that question.
It is a good question.
Because there is no perfect candidate.
Gotcha.
Nobody is going to come to Georgia and say, hey, I have all the skills, I have all the qualifications, I have all the money, I have all the know-how. That person doesn't exist.
Okay.
It's going to require a team. And it's going to take an understanding of how to put that team together. And that's really what this seminar is about, is coming to listening to what we have to say and then saying, okay, I now understand how I have to put my team together. And, I'm in a room of 200 to 300 people, like-minded people, and some of them may have some of these skills that I'm looking for. This is a great place for me to network and discuss my vision with people who have the same ideas, and my vision might mesh with someone else's vision, and we might make a great team.
And I see that too, Jesse. What we see is there's levels. And I tell people all this. Everybody wants to come out and say, I want to be the grower. I want to be the dispensary. And so, Mike's been doing this over 10 years. I've been doing it now 6 years. And so what you see is people come in with levels, meaning some people have the money to go ahead and back a license. Some people have the skills to do the operations. Some people have the skills to actually grow the plant. Some have the skills to be able to do the tech, the accounting, the legal. Think about anything that the cannabis business has, you're going to have in other businesses and vice versa. So you need lawyers, you need accountants, you need people to build your cultivation sites, because in Georgia you cannot grow outdoors. So you have to, you have to grow indoors. So there's some caveats in the law that give preferential treatment to minorities and minority businesses. So they're going to be looking at that when you apply. So say if you're going to this our seminar, which is going to be June 22nd at the Atlanta Airport Marriott and June 23rd in Atlanta Buckhead Marriott, and you come to that seminar and say you have you're a guy who has a lot of money, or say you're a lawyer, you want to work with some of these businesses, or an accountant, HR professionals, plumbers, HVAC, electrical, all these businesses are going to have to put into an application, and that application is going to be scored by the state of Georgia Department of Health. They're actually creating a new division to be able to do all this, and so you want to have those people on your team in order to score highest in order to win a license.
Wow.
Right.
So what you're saying is you've got to pretty much have a little, if somebody is going to spearhead this thing, right? If they're let's say the boss, that boss is then going to have to employ a team of accountants, attorneys, cultivators, or growers, maybe dispensary managers,
manufacturers, dispensary owners.
Gotcha. So this isn't going to be a mom and pop looking kind of operation. I mean,
now
it's
there could be. So there's a caveat here. So the way the state of Georgia is doing it, they're going to have two different ways on how to do a dispensary.
Okay.
If you currently own a pharmacy, or you're going to apply to be a pharmacy, you can opt in to sell this medical cannabis. So, but to let everybody know, the CVSs of the world, the Walgreens of the world are not going to do this because it's still federally illegal. So they're going to stay away.
Correct.
The small mom and pop pharmacies, yes, this will be a perfect opportunity.
Well, we're going to talk about that, and I don't want to get it at the seminar because, again, with medical marijuana, we run into a federal state jurisdictional issue.
Right.
And all of these pharmacies have to register with the federal government and the DEA for a license to be able to sell narcotics. And they won't be able to, the state may allow them to then be a dispensary to sell a Schedule I narcotic, but no federally licensed pharmacy is allowed to sell a Schedule I narcotic. So you run into these technical issues, and even though the language is really, inclusive and actually, would like pharmacies to be an outlet point for medical marijuana, the realistic, logistical, legal issue that falls in there, and this is one of the things that we're going to discuss at the seminar and really in more depth.
Gotcha. So you already mentioned some of the language. What language are you referring to? Is it the law, the HB 324, the new cannabis law?
Correct. And so that just passed. It just actually passed. The governor signed it this week.
Oh, wow. Okay,
Right.
so this is like all fresh, brand new.
All fresh.
Wow.
Yep. So what we find is if we can give people the most valuable thing right now, which is time.
Right.
Because typically there's a window, and Mike and I have done this, and our partners with the Medical Cannabis Society have come in, and that we want to give people time because it takes time to prepare to put together an application. So, for example, one of the issues has to deal with local zoning.
Oh,
so
wow. Okay.
You have to be a certain feet buffer between certain things, such as schools, churches, daycares, and so you have to find that location.
Right.
Also, you need to have local support, whether it be a letter from the local municipality saying, hey, it's okay. And so those types of things take time, and you want to be able to have time to kind of work on your application and make sure you have the best team, as well as you need time to find the right people to partner with. Because say I'm coming and I'm a healthcare executive, or say I'm a pharmacy technician, and I work at Walgreens right now. Well, I want to get into this industry. Well, people are going to need somebody like you. Also, don't forget, minorities are going to play a pro. Minority businesses and minorities in general, they're going to be looking at how many, what percentage of minorities and women you have on your team. So it's not always that you may have, you may be thinking, hey, I'm going to go there and run my own business. Right. A lot of people walk away from our seminars and find a new teammate.
I see.
Every single seminar we've done, people have gotten into the industry. Every single one, which is exciting.
So you're talking, how do I put this in common terms? Are you talking about 100% placement? Like if someone were to go to school?
Not every single person. Not every single person who attends the seminar gets in the industry. What I'm saying is, every time we've had a seminar, people in the seminar have gotten in the industry. So I'll give you a perfect example. Okay. We did this in Pennsylvania and had a great guy who came up to us named Steve, and he was a physical therapist. Right. And so we kind of bonded because Mike, of course, is physical therapy. I'm occupational therapy. And he had done a lot of work in nursing homes, and I used to run nursing homes. So long story short, he applied for a license. We worked with him. We became his corporate compliance directors, and he won a dispensary license in Philadelphia, and now he has 6 total. Wow. In Philadelphia, in Center City. And so they're doing millions of dollars a year, and it all started at our seminar, which is very exciting for us and him, and we're very excited.
And you said that was how long ago?
That was in 2016.
Okay, so just in a couple years, people have gotten incredible success.
And same thing in Hawaii. We did this in 2015, and we had a couple groups who came to our seminar and got licenses there, and now they're doing very well in selling, cultivating and selling marijuana.
Gotcha. Okay, so I'm trying to make this crystal clear for the audience. Can you have a dispensary but sell somebody else's cultivated product?
That is actually how Georgia is going to work. So you're going to have a few number of cultivators. Right. That's going to be a limited number. They will be cultivating plant and then creating the product that is sold on store shelves. Okay. And then you people, so the mom and pops of the world could own the storefront buying wholesale product from manufacturers across the state.
Cool. But not over state lines.
Correct.
No, right.
Only that's important.
Right. It's very important. All the states really operate as their own individual country because marijuana can't be transported across state lines because of federal guidelines. Then every state can do whatever it wants, but it has to be self-contained. So every state grows all its own cannabis, manufactures, produces, processes, and then distributes all its own product that it's made. It can't be brought in from anywhere.
Gotcha. And according to this new cannabis law in Georgia, just passed very recently, we just learned, is what defines as a tincture versus an oil, and versus.
I'll give that to Mike Visher.
Okay.
So it all really comes down to the process used to put it together. A tincture would be like a most common one is a glycerin type tincture, where you through an extraction process create a 98% pure extraction product, which generally is like it's the consistency of a honey, and it's got a nice golden glaze to it. You can then, in a glycerin tincture, basically dilute it down to the parts that you want, and then you have a dosable product. If you're looking at an oil, you're usually then wanting something that has a little bit of a thinner consistency, but that wouldn't apply for the oil in like a vape pen, since vaping is not allowed.
Right.
But you'd be able to take like a coconut oil or a butter and then infuse that and then use that as something that you can then digest. And then again, that comes down into the more intricate rules on what the state is going to allow. The state has to actually issue those rules now once they've created their internal Department of Health regulatory authority, and then they'll issue the rules on specifically what's going to be allowed for consumption in the state.
Gotcha. So it's quite a loaded question, but what you're saying is, you can't vape, you can't smoke the flower. You either have to take it orally
or suppository.
Okay. So it's gonna look and feel more like a medicine than something that's what we're seeing with the cultures out west in Colorado and Washington.
For now.
And that's the
You're right.
South.
Right.
That's one of the things that, the South is a conservative place, and it likes to do things in a slow, conservative, let it roll out
That's
process.
Right.
And so what we want to do is help the state, being, from the South. I mean, Mike and I are from Florida. So we can't get any more south than that, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. Some people don't feel the same way, Mike. They may not think that is the South, but like Mike, and we're talking about Florida. Florida started very similar to Georgia.
Yes.
Very small, only a few operators, and now they're over 250,000 patients. There's over 9,000 workers in Florida in the cannabis industry.
Okay.
And a lot of them are started right at the beginning. And so we want the people in Georgia to have that opportunity to start from the beginning, because then you're going to be able to be at the epicenter of everything.
Right.
And
so this is the ground floor opportunity.
Exactly. And this is only going to happen once.
Right.
And one of the great things we like to tell everybody is nobody has experience.
Exactly.
So we're people who are looking to bring people on. They're not going to say, well, you have no experience, you can't work in this industry. What we see is this is a true entrepreneur's dream. And so you're able to come in and actually start a business or work with a business and be able to move forward quickly. And it's something that we haven't seen in the state of Georgia, but they've seen all these other states do it. Now it's Georgia's turn, and we want to make sure they take the most advantage of it as they can.
That's exciting. Are we seeing, when new markets open up, are we seeing some of, for instance, a guy like Mike here, who has experience in Colorado, are we seeing them kind of jump ship and go to the new markets? Or is there going to be competition from existing states, like people are abandoning their practice, or like this guy Steven, Pennsylvania, maybe he wants to come down to the Georgia market, or is it exclusive to residents of Georgia? Well,
I'll take a little bit of that, and I'll turn it over to Visher too. But right now, there's no language that says you have to be a Georgia resident.
Okay.
But typically, the way I operate, and Mike and I operate, is we would never go into a state without local support.
Right.
It's just kind of stupid.
Sure.
So especially, and no offense to people from the North, coming down to Georgia, unless you can speak Southern, you want to make sure that that the local law, but and the local people, because you will have some companies who are going to be looking to bring in people from the South and from Georgia.
Right.
We already know we're going to have law firms who are coming from out of state who want to put a team together. They're going to be coming to our seminar. We already know that. They've already contacted us, so we're excited about that. But they will come in to kind of help guide. Okay. But they're going to need a lot of people in the state, and we feel that people who live in the state are going to have a better chance of winning.
That's excellent.
That's kind of my side. What do you think, Mike?
Yeah. Well, what we see is some big national players with operations, and even some Canadian firms who will maybe bankroll the process.
Right.
But the boots on the ground type deal is a local process, and that's one of the things that we want to bring to the Atlanta area, is that understanding that there, regardless of no group from Colorado is going to bring their whole Colorado team, leave Colorado, and move to Atlanta. If they're going to do something, they're going to want to take their process, their IP, and set it up in Atlanta and help produce product there, which means, again, like Mike says, you need local affiliation. And we believe that this is best suited to be a Georgia endeavor, because the Georgia legislature's intent is to create a Georgia endeavor with minority affiliation, a minority ownership. So the state wants to see minority businesses get contracts for bids in the industry. They don't want to sell out to a Canadian firm to come in, bring in all their IP, their own people, set up shop, and start manufacturing medical cannabis the same way you manufacture cars.
And with that, let me tell you, Jesse, so there's a caveat in this law that states that they want to see on application, what are you doing to bring jobs to the municipality you're looking to operate?
I see.
So they're saying, look, we want to bring it down to the municipal level to bring jobs to that area, because there's currently an issue in Pennsylvania right now where a big multi-state operator is trying to buy a bigger company, and the state of Pennsylvania is starting to look at that to say we may not allow this because they're basically trying to monopolize the whole industry, and there was never the intent to do that. So
I see.
We're starting to see a little bit of a backlash against big marijuana.
Okay, fair enough.
We feel that Georgia is in a perfect place for Georgians to benefit.
Right.
They may need a little bit of assistance from people outside the state who've done this for years, and you want that. But we want to see the majority of people in power, so to speak, or in management to be Georgia residents.
See, and I like that, because I think if I was a small guy thinking about coming to your seminar, I would want to know that I'm not competing against a big franchisee or something like that, where the big guns are already going to kind of come in. They already got the team of lawyers already sitting down. Maybe they helped write the language. So, they feel like it's already stacked against them. Like, how am I going to compete as a guy who has a small single-store pharmacy that's been in my family for generations when, I don't want to compete with those people who have already had big experience out west in Colorado for so many years, and now they're expanding to Pennsylvania, and now they're going to just infiltrate our market, and we're going to be pushed out. So I really like what you're saying, because if Georgia had not put in that language into the new bill, then that could be of a valid concern, but it's really not a valid concern.
But also think about this. So say you're a small pharmacy owner and you want to get involved. You could actually partner with them where they're going to finance everything that they need.
Right.
And then you're going to run it all, and so it's a win-win.
I see.
So that's why they need locals in order to do that. So say you're in Waycross, Georgia, or you're Savannah, or you're Augusta, or Athens. They're going to need stores out there. They don't know the local people. So imagine if you get, no offense, Mike, but imagine if you get Mike to come to a meeting about zoning, and he's not from that area, and he's asking for properly zoning. So usually doesn't always work the right way you want it to work. So you want to have that local buy-in, because you're going to be a community member. And so this is what we try to let everybody know is you're going to be running that community, and the people who are coming in, they know that, and they want those local people to be able to do that and prosper.
Right. Now, if somebody's already heard enough, we have the ticker at the bottom of our broadcast. You go to medicalcannabissociety.org for more. Where else can they learn more? Is that the site that has everything that you're mentioning? It's
going to have everything they are. You can go to our website, which is USCRD.com, and that's our U.S. Cannabis Pharmaceutical Research and Development. Right. And so that's Mike and our company website, where you can learn a little bit about Mike and our background. Right. Also, you can see kind of what events we've done in the past. We do a lot of speaking all over the U.S. and the globe. I'm actually going to London in July to speak at the a global CBD conference. I just got back from Boston speaking at UBS, United Bank of Switzerland, Global Consumer Conference. And so Mike and I and our team were actually able to educate the FBI last year, which is very odd.
Sure.
So stepping in front. And so I remember Mike saying, I've been trying to avoid the FBI all my life. So our thing is we want to bring that professionalism to the industry, and we want to show other people who come to this seminar that you do have value. A lot of people we see coming into this and say, well, I don't know anything. Well, no, you know a lot. If you're an accountant, or if you're a pharmacist, or you've worked in healthcare, if you worked in data analytics, there's a place for you. If you're a plumber and do great work, there's a place for you. So you just have to show up.
Even just tradesmen, like HVAC, we need everything.
Right.
Well, and
plumbing, electricians.
Well, that kind of gets into the second part of who should attend the seminar. And one of the things we want to look at in who should attend and how you ask yourself, is this worth going? And the list is pretty long. And it starts with minority businesses and pharmacies, but then it works into ancillary services. And so plumbing, electrical, HVAC,
Commercial
general
insurance.
contracting.
Very good. Yeah.
Commercial insurance.
The thing, what was happening in Denver back in early 2010, 2011, all of a sudden, all these billboards were popping up for 24-hour plumbers.
That's incredible.
And people are like, why are all these plumbers putting up 24-hour plumbing signs? I mean, granted, you need a couple to it. But what would happen is these grow houses were breaking down, and Denver's a whole different animal, so
Sure.
it's not a fair example. But they were having grow houses breaking down, and then there's flooding going on, and people need commercial plumbers 24 hours a day. And so that became a big niche industry in early 2010, 11 for, ancillary businesses. So in the same way, operators may have an idea of what they want, but they don't necessarily have a plumber on staff that's going to do that. And they want to have a contract with someone that if something goes wrong, I pick up the phone, you've been background checked and licensed, and the state approves of you. Right. And so you want to know, all of this. You can't, that's the other thing, is that even the maid can't just work in the marijuana dispensary. You can't just have a maid come clean your dispensary. Your maid has to be licensed by the state for a background check so that she can go into the limited access areas and sweep up the dirt.
Speaking of limited access areas, now you're talking about security protocols.
Right.
The bio-identification, right? Or pin pads, or if somebody has a background in providing security at different levels, that's a really good opportunity for them too. They're
security guards too.
Security guards. Wow, yeah.
That's where when we talk about ancillary services, we don't want to limit.
The list goes on and on.
It goes on and on. Wow. And so basically, you have to realize this is a young industry that requires all the same ancillary services that any other regular industry requires, but doesn't have regular access to because it's like marijuana. Ooh.
Sure.
So now they're like, well, where do I find an accountant, or where do I find an app designer who can make an app that will plug into my menu so that patients can look and in real time see how much quantity I have of what, and be able to put it on reserve and be like, hey, I'm showing up in 30 minutes, so it's there bagged for you. It's practically drive-through service. Yeah,
incredible.
And so with home delivery and things like that, it all comes down to being able to be convenient, and this industry just requires all those people who can put those things together. So that's not always. Same thing with, you have a dispensary and you need someone to design the layout of it, a smooth retail merchandising flow.
Right.
Who's going to do that? I'll tell you what, 10 years ago, if you called a professional company to merchandise your retail space and you told them you want to do marijuana, they were like, we don't want your money. We don't want to work for you. Now it's like, oh my God, there are retailers and cabinet designers and all in wood grains and greens and all marijuana decor outlines. So
and let me add to that. So it's a funny story. So when we did this seminar in Hawaii, I called all these radio stations to do advertising for the seminar. And Jesse, they literally sat there and said, well, are you selling marijuana at these seminars? I'm like, no, we're just selling information.
That is a misconception, right?
Well, they ended up.
There will be no samples.
There will be no samples, no marijuana there. So, but it's interesting. They said they had to go to the head of the whole entire network of radio stations to get approval. And we were the first company to ever advertise about cannabis in any aspect on the radio in Hawaii. And so, when you're the first, sometimes people don't understand how that works. Well, now, like Mike's saying, is more and more companies are getting involved, but they got to have that local input. They got to have those local designers, those local people in order to do that. They can help train those people, but the local businesses, specifically the minority businesses on all types, this is a definite opportunity for them to get involved now, because if they wait, this is the first time they're going to give a lot of licenses at one time. And after that, as they grow, they're gonna start. Usually, they roll them out slowly.
Probably like a lottery system.
Well, it'll be a scored system, but
I see.
Maybe they'll only do a few. But here, they're going to do as many. They're going to do a lot in a short amount of time.
Right.
And so this is where they're going to have to hire and give a lot of licenses. And one of the things specifically about licenses, we have our partners, Tom Perko and Russ Sosimo with the Medical Cannabis Society. They actually have a license in Pittsburgh for a dispensary, and they want it through a scored application. There was over 400 applicants and only 26 winners, and they were one of them. them.
Very
They will be there speaking, explaining how this works. How do you get a winning application, and how can you own a part of this business?
Man, that is so impressive. So let's dive into the exciting part, the nuts and bolts of how many, like, for instance, what is that market going to look like? Atlanta's a big space.
Well,
It's the whole state of
Georgia's a big-
Georgia.
right?
It's the whole state of
Exactly. So, what's the potential gains? Let's give some ideas. Let's spitball some ideas of if they got, for instance, one of the first applications. They go to your seminar. They do everything right that you tell them to do. What kind of gains could they expect to make in the first couple of years?
Oh, that's a loaded question,
Right?
Because this is not a get rich quick type of concept. So it's definitely not a, like, if you're the first one in, you're going to be making millions of dollars your first year out.
Right.
That's probably not going to happen.
What's realistic?
If you take the example of one of the first operators here in Florida, which is True Leaf, they were one of the first 5 license holders in 2015. They slowly grew their company through low THC and just providing low THC products to the patients. And then as Florida expanded its system, they grew their cultivation process, their extraction processes, and their retail processes in dispensaries. They now own 30 dispensaries across Florida and generate,
Incredible.
I think it's almost $100 million annually.
This year, they're actually they said they're going to generate 200, but they went public last year.
Mm-hmm.
They're now valued at $1 billion.
Wow.
And they started in 2015. And they're only in Florida operating right now. Now, they just bought a license in California, and they bought one in Massachusetts. But, yes, they're valued at $1 billion.
So let's define a couple things for those listeners. If you're in Georgia, you're considering going to the seminar, how many card holders are in Florida versus how many applications for cards in Georgia? Are we starting?
Are you talking about as
medical
a patient?
cards? Yeah.
Well, right now, there's about 270,000, 260,000
rather
patients.
than using the numbers, a better baseline to work off is patient percentage against population.
Okay.
So if you look at the total population for the state of Georgia, you look at between a 3 to a 5% adoption rate of patients, and that's about what you're looking at total statewide adoption in the state of Georgia.
Right, and because I'm just trying to be the devil's advocate for those listeners. When they're thinking about going into something like this, there's a lot of questions. How much competition is going to be, how dense is it going to be? From one dispensary to another, is there, and we know the limits between schools and public institutions. What about between each dispensary? Is it going to be like one dispensary per a certain capita?
As of right now, they haven't gotten that specific.
Okay.
So what the law basically says is they can't implement any new policy that will limit the access to the medicine.
Okay.
It's very vague.
Gotcha.
And I think they did that intentionally because they want to have control.
Right.
So they don't want a marijuana store on every corner.
Right.
I think, be honest, they're more concerned about the rural areas of Georgia rather than the metropolitan areas.
I see. Okay.
Because if you're in Waycross and you have to drive 40 miles to get your product, that's very difficult to do.
Yeah, inconvenience.
It's very inconvenient. So they specifically are looking at that. I think, as Mike talked about, where we are right now, the law has been signed. Now the next phase is over the next 6 months, they're going to write out the rules and regulations, the specific way on how to apply, the specifics on who are the team members and what they need to be. The reason you need to come now, June 22nd or June 23rd in Atlanta, is because we need to make sure that everybody knows what they're doing, because typically once they release those regulations, Jesse, you're looking at probably 2 to 3 months max where those applications have to be in.
Yeah, it's already too late. Once they've released the information, you're getting it. It's already too late.
You're behind the 8 ball.
Right. Most of these operators are putting their teams together, lining everything up, waiting for the application information to hit, and then line the team up behind the way the application process is laid out. Right. And these are the things that we're going to go in depth on in how to put together with as Mike said, the members of the Medical Cannabis Society and their experience in submitting a scored application in Pennsylvania.
Incredible. So everyone starts with no experience. You're going to be talking and taking them through step-by-step guidance And then what about, for instance, follow up? Are they going to have access to you in your consultation?
They can. And typically
Okay.
what we tell people is we're not there to upsell you when you come to our seminar.
Sure.
We're here to sit there and give you information to help you on your way. If by chance you would like to hire our group to
Right.
be able to help you, we can definitely do that. If there's a group that wants to apply for a license and wants us to help them, that's something that we can do. Like I mentioned before, we helped a group in Pennsylvania, in Philadelphia, get a license.
Right.
So we have done that. We do a lot of consulting in a lot of different areas.
Gotcha.
What we found is you can't limit yourself to one area. Currently, we're working on projects in hemp. We're working on projects in cannabis. We're working on regulatory projects. We're working on cryptocurrency
And
in
also,
regards to
so
cannabis.
what happens
Wow.
with
Yeah.
members who come to the seminars is that they're then able to hire us for specific projects. So
Right.
they say,
I
you
see.
know what, I want to find out about creating this type of product. I need you guys for a 6-week project, and then we'll work out depending on what the client needs. But a lot of times they are able to come to the seminar and then reach out to us again and say, hey, I need some direction in finding X, Y, and Z. And Patterson's really very accessible in
Great.
helping people get that information and move forward.
One of the reasons, to me, the main reason we do this is to help. Because we got to pay it forward. We want Georgia to be successful.
Right.
And to me, we want them to come somewhere where somebody's going to give them the exact information. We're going to be a true friend. We're going to tell you how it is.
Right.
We're not going to sugarcoat it.
Right.
But you're going to get the information that you need to make the decisions that you need to moving forward, and you're not going to waste your time. And that's what I tell people. People kind of wander around in the desert, so to speak, and they say, I want to get in the business, I want to get in the business.
Right.
When one day, by the time you leave, you're going to know, I want to do it, or maybe this is not for me. You're going to get a clear answer,
Right.
and you're going to meet a lot of people, because this is a great networking event. This is the first event in the state, people. This is the chance for you to meet everybody who's going to be involved. We tell people, bring your resume. You never know. We
Right.
see so many deals being done
Right.
that they don't realize the significance until maybe weeks later because they met at the seminar.
It also helps when people are, again, like-minded individuals looking for the same approach, and you're able to then discuss these things and get an understanding. Because a lot of people come and they're like, I want to, like Mike says, I want to be in the industry. I have a lot of great ideas. And that's where they stop. And so here at a networking event, you're like, I'm motivated. I have ideas. I need access to operations, and I need access to funding. And you're able to talk to people who know they have the funding but might not know where their place for their funding is in the industry. And here you meet somebody who's got an idea, and here you meet a guy who's the operations for that idea, and here you are the funding mechanism for that idea, and boom, we've made a very happy marriage.
And Jesse, it's funny because when he said that, it just reminded me. You sit there, you see a lot of people with land who
Right.
come, hey, I got land. And so there's a lot of people who don't have land,
Right.
and like, I know how to do this, and I need land.
Right.
So there you go. It's like, boom. So we see a lot of people interacting like that, to where I have something of value, I can bring something else of value, we can come together, do a great application. Because say if you have 100 acres near Macon, and so you can sit there and offer that. It's in an area where it's not near what I call any soccer moms. So you want to be away from everybody to grow cannabis. And so you can sit there and grow where there's not going to be another grow in the state. And so maybe the state is going to say, well, we want to have these grows spread out. They haven't said that yet, but you want to be able to partner with those people. They're going to be at this seminar because we see them at every single seminar. And for some reason, we've already got calls from people from Georgia saying they've got 40 acres, 20 acres, 100 acres here or there, wherever. And so these are already agricultural areas. What we expect to see is that the growing areas, the cultivation areas, will most likely have to be zoned agricultural.
Right.
And so you're going to have to find land that's, if it's already zoned agricultural, it's a lot easier.
Sure.
And then you're going to have to get local, whether it be county or city approvals. And so the more people you know, and if you have somebody who owns land in that district and is friendly with their county commissioners or whoever, that's what a lot of times it takes. And so if you can bring somebody on your team like that, it can be a win-win.
Now, are they? I misunderstood. I thought it was only indoor cultivation.
Well, remember, you have to have land to build your indoor cultivation.
Oh, I see. Well,
So-
what about existing for those for instance, let's say a commercial guy has a vacant warehouse.
Again, you could do it that way.
Okay.
It just depends. It has to be the certain distance away from all the other things, the churches, the schools.
Right.
The
So
daycare
as long as
centers.
it's in a commercial or industrial zoned area that meets those criteria, they could maybe get their building.
And then-
Potentially.
Potentially,
It's one of those things where, depending on your business plan and production rates and things
Gotcha.
like that, again, paying industrial rates for land for agricultural purposes can be a little self-defeating, as opposed to looking for agricultural land, building a facility and growing on agricultural land where the cost of the land and your rent prices may just be significantly less.
That's true, because I know here in Florida, agricultural land, because it is unimproved, usually dirt road access, not a whole lot of infrastructure. So, and I guess if you are going to build something specific to this industry, you might as well start from the ground up, and instead of retrofitting an existing building.
Especially now with technology,
Right.
with indoor cultivation technology the way it is, it's always easier to build from the ground up and incorporate all these new technologies
Okay.
than to try to retrofit. I mean, again, it can all be done,
Right.
but if you're, and these are all the little things that we get into definitely in the seminar, in the specifics of your bottom line, your dollar, your goal. It can all be done. It's a matter of creating that image, and like Patterson says, give yourself time to actually implement that image, that vision, because the hate thing you want to do is in the 11th hour that the applications are coming out and I have a vision, and now you have 50 minutes to put that vision together.
So if we were to tell people let's say the top 5 takeaways that they'll have from the seminar, it sounds like not only the networking, but also how to fill out the application, or you guys going to review that?
We can't get into too much of that because the application technically hasn't been released.
Oh, I see.
So, but what we're going to give you is all the meat
Right.
to put on the application. We're going to say this is what you're going to look for.
Good.
We're
Okay.
going to give the backgrounds of what you need to have a winning application, if that's
Good.
what you want to go with.
Okay.
So I think the big thing is the goals and the questions we want people to be able to answer
Yes.
when they
Let's
when
go-
they,
let's
when
go
they
through that.
walk away from a seminar is want to make sure is the industry for me?
Right.
Right.
Can I get into this industry? Is this what I want to be doing? I know it sounds like fun to be in the weed industry, but once it's an industry, it's not fun anymore. It's work.
It's a business.
It's work.
Yeah.
It can still be fun, Mike. I enjoy what I do.
It's work. It's work. And so then, can I invest in the industry? Is there a place for me to invest?
That's smart. Okay.
Can I bring professional ancillary business skills to the industry? And what does that mean? And that's
Right.
kind of what we were discussing in the plumbers, the electricians, HVACs, accountants, lawyers, bankers, agronomists, all these different people who are in complete different industries, but now have a place where they can find a home in the
Right.
cannabis industry. Can I get a license? And we want people to be able to answer that question of, I can get a license or I can't get a license, because now I know I have the team, I don't have the team, I know what's realistic and what's not realistic, as opposed to just having a hope and a dream, an idea of being in the marijuana industry. Can I get a bank? Can I use a bank? Can I get a loan?
That's a big
Those
question.
Those are big questions.
Right.
And so those are aspects that we want to cover. What is the place for minority businesses? What are the special requirements that have been made to incentivize minority businesses? What about veterans and women-owned businesses, and how do they compare
yeah.
to minority businesses? And just a spoiler alert here, they're treated the same.
Good.
And then, can pharmacies sell low THC products? So those are the primary takeaways. Some
Right.
of the more subtle things we're going to get into is how to put your application team together, if that's how you want to apply, how to vest an investment opportunity to make sure, vet an investment opportunity to make sure that it is the right opportunity for you, and that you agree with the mission statement that the group who's going to apply for, and that the group that's applying has found the right investor that believes in them. And those marriages have to work. If operations and money don't see eye to eye, these don't work, just like in any other industry.
And I want to add to that is that jobs. So when currently in Florida, for every job opening in the marijuana industry, there's about 500 applicants.
Oh, is that right? Wow.
So imagine if you come to this seminar and you retain the knowledge, and we'll have handouts to be able to give you, show the law and everything, and you go into an interview in 8 months when people get licenses,
Sure.
and you can come in and you can spart off the law and you know everything about it, you're going to have a lot better chance of working for that company because you've done your homework.
Right.
And a lot of people, what we find is they jump in and like, yay, I want to do this, and then they don't realize it's a real job,
Right.
and they have real skills, and they actually have to work, and they
Right.
can't sit and use the products. You know what I'm saying? So you'd be surprised.
Sure.
So one of the things that we like to do is put the real world in everybody's picture,
Right.
to let them see what this really is, and see if it's something that is definitely for them or not.
Yeah. So it sounds like it's going to be a long day of self-exploration, of deciding whether or not it's right for you, and of course, if you do decide that it's something that you want to explore further, there's going to be plenty of networking. There's going to be lots of people already, besides yourselves, also other speakers that they'll be able to kind of piggyback on, or just kind of inquire further about how they got started and so forth. So it really seems like if anybody is still on the fence, it sounds like it's one of those things that you don't want to miss out on,
Right.
because it is the ground floor,
Right.
and because there's still so many variables that have yet to be determined, as far as policy, like we mentioned, as far as law, as far as a lot of other statutes and so forth. But this is the one event where a lot of the big players or the ground floor players are gonna get a head start.
They're going to be there, and they're going to be looking for you, and they're
Right.
going to be looking for somebody else, and they're going to be looking to fill those holes, and they're going to be getting a laundry list of people that they met at the seminar
Right.
to possibly bring on. We've seen it every single time. This is not our first rodeo.
Right.
We've been doing this many, many years. So we want those people to succeed. We want people in Georgia to be able to get into this industry and do very, very well. And if we can help them, great.
Right.
If they could do it with other people, that's okay too.
Okay. So once again, you get tickets, medicalcannabiссociety.org. That's medicalcannabiссociety.org. Anything further, Mike V?
I'll have lots to say for our seminar.
I would just like to say June 22nd,
Yes.
Atlanta Marriott. And then June 23rd is the Buckhead Marriott in Atlanta, Georgia. It's going to be the exact same show. We just picked two different locations because usually these shows typically do sell out.
And Atlanta's a big place.
Atlanta's a big place, and so it'll be on a Saturday and a Sunday. It's usually going to start around 9 o'clock, but it usually goes from 8 to 9. We do provide lunch, and we'll get you out of there before 3:30 or 4 o'clock. And then we'll stay as long as people have questions. Mike and I have done that for like 2 hours after the seminars usually, because we want to make sure we answer all the questions that we have. And then there will be able to have a way to follow up long-term through the Medical Cannabis Society.
Right.
We are bringing that to Georgia. We're very excited about that.
Very cool.
So Russ and Tom, our partners, will be there to be able to talk about that and how to continue through this knowledge and education to be able to help in Georgia.
So there you go. Atlanta, they're coming at you. Don't miss it. June 22nd. June 23rd, it's an all-day, like pretty much 12 hours. So you're really going to get
Well,
to
not
know.
12 hours.
Not
We're going
12
to get you there. Starts at 9, ends about 3:30.
3:30, okay. Okay.
It's not that long.
We did the Hawaii was a 12-hour seminar.
It was too long.
much.
Right.
Too
It's
much.
too much.
But as long as besides the lunch break, there will be times for open networking.
Of course.
Yeah, it's broken down the days scheduled with breaks and times for networking. And then again, afterwards, what you find is that there's so much information that people who they've met are like, hey, let's get a drink and digest all this.
Right.
So you're going to make a friend.
Right.
That's right. Well, perfect. Well, thank you again for joining me on this beautiful Sunday. And again, if you have heard enough, go to medicalcannabiссociety.org and get your tickets now. If you have any other further questions, I know you guys are available. And the best way to reach them, what's that?
It's our website, which is USCPRD. So USC, P as in Paul, R as in Randy, D as in dog.com.
There you go. Well, thanks for tuning in. And again, you heard it here first, the Cannabis Guys podcast. And we're going to come back over and over again here as new states are opened up, new laws are discovered, and to keep you guys certainly in the know. And of course, we're going to shed quite a bit of light, since this is quite the emerging industry. And we continue to see more and more states getting into it, and especially with low THC discussions that we're seeing even here in Florida and throughout the U.S. We're starting to see a lot more states kind of adopt their own rules. So there's going to be plenty of content. So make sure you to subscribe to Cannabis Guys podcast, and we'll be here next episode. So thank you guys once again for joining us in the studio today, and for all of you there, well, we hope to see you in Atlanta. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks a lot.